Don't need a note next time.
Okay. I'd like to call the mayor's Selectmen meeting to order, December 15th, 2014, 7 o'clock in the Daniel S. Rivero Chambers. Could you all remove your hats, stand up, and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Item 3, public comments. Does anybody in the audience like to make a comment or have a question? Mr. Bove.
Thank you for the time. I just want to talk for a minute about something you've known about for a long time, but it doesn't seem to get what I call your priority interest. That's the finances of this town. You've known at least since August. I was at the finance board meeting, and they were extremely unhappy. They couldn't understand anything that was given to them about the town finances. They got the education department's finances. They read it. They said, we understand it. Everything is fine. They talked about this new software program you have. They said the recommendations of companies using it, none of them began with town of. They don't think the software program is good. I heard the treasurer here in August say she couldn't handle the back year and work on this year. So if she can't work on this year or the back year, something wrong. She says the people under her don't understand what's going on. I heard Mr. Carr say a long time ago, a business this size, 3 people should be able to run all the finances. Sounds like to me, it's time for you to make a decision. One of the 3, 2 of the 3, or all of the 3 are going to go. Now, the last thing I got to say is, next year you run for re-election, all of you, I imagine. You run on your record. Did you sit on a mess, or did you clean up a mess? Thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot for your comments. Okay. Oh, Mr. Denon.
Of course. On a lighter note, David Denon, Vandale Street, Putnam. Last meeting, I proposed to you a concept that I have to help the redevelopment of the Special Service District. And I did go to the redevelopment agency meeting on the 9th, where I believe Mr. Pecora, the chairman, was there. Some gentleman was there who sat in the chair who looked like he was the chairman. I'm not sure who he was. At first he seemed a bit perplexed about my concept, but as he began to understand it, he actually thought it was a very good idea, and recommended that I take it and make a lot of money with it, because it was such a good idea. To that effect, I'm not really interested at the moment, but I am interested in to continue to propose this as a possibility to help redevelopment the Special Service District. Just a little bit of background. On the internet, you can find in the NOLO Press a category called casual co-housing, which provides you with a lot of information on how this type of thing is done. It is being done all over the country, not necessarily the way that I'm proposing it, but it is being done. And they give you all kinds of links to different types of information, forming, ownership structure, sharing expenses. And their direct quote is that multi-unit properties are initially purchased as a TIC, tenancy in common, because that is the automatic form of ownership when the group buys it together. So essentially, once the LLC is formed, once they buy it, it's set that way. They also give you links and assistance on how to form the legal documents. And There are other several articles on the internet, retrofitting co-housing, a different kind of fixer-upper, and another website called Intentional Communities, which also delves into this situation. There are at least 12 intentional communities in Connecticut now, many of them in urban areas where they've taken over buildings. I spoke to a friend of mine about this, and she commented that in North Providence, there are a lot of old Victorian mansions that have been bought and converted into condominiums. So the idea that I'm proposing is not all that far-fetched because it is being done. I am not the originator of it. I'm just simply bringing it forth to this board of selectmen. I will continue to do more research on this and report to you in the future on this topic.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have a comment or question? Seeing none, we'll go to item 4, approval of minutes. December 1, 2014.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded. Any additions, deletions? Seeing none, all in favor of approval of December 1st meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? 5, petition and communication. A, letter dated November 10, 2014, from Wheeler regarding facility and wastewater treatment system notification, and request for approval. Supplemental information and request for approval. And B, a letter dated December 3rd, 2014, from Wheeler regarding the facility and wastewater treatment system notification, and request for approval form. Ongoing material recovery demonstration projects. Information requested in November 26, 2014. And these can be reviewed during normal business hours in the mayor's office. Item 6, reports of standing committees. Codification.
We'll be scheduling that after the first of the year.
Okay. Wheeler Contract Review Committee.
Uh-huh. Well, Mr. Mayor, hopefully this is the last time this appears on the agenda, because tonight, as you got in your packets, we have the 38-page contract. But what I've done is put together a few slides to kind of give you the executive summary. If you guys don't mind, I'll break rule number 1 and doing a presentation. I'll sit here at my desk and do it. I'm fortunate to have with me tonight 2 gentlemen that know this contract inside, outside, backwards, and forwards. So if you have any technical questions about the contract, we have Doug and Bill here tonight. So let's get started. Members of the committee, it started back in 2009. We had a lot of changes back then. As you know, Mr. Mayor, you were part of the committee. You weren't mayor. Now you're mayor. We had, I was on the Board of Ed. Now I've changed positions, and probably the biggest change of all is Owen switched teams on us. He came in the committee as a Republican, and he saw the light and switched to being a Democrat. So this is the makeup of the committee. We spent a lot of time, worked very hard, and I think we've got a contract that you'll be proud of. If you haven't been up to the landfill in a while, the ash landfill, this is what it looks like from the air. That's looking south and a little bit west. Before we take a look at the contract, I thought we'd kind of give you a quick history of how we got to this point. In terms of how much ash have we brought in, it started back in 1999 with, we got to take our hats off to former Mayor Rivero. He did a lot of work in bringing revenue into Putnam. And as you can see, in the last, from 1999 to 2013, we're at about 4.5 million cubic yards of ash. In terms of the rate of what we're getting paid for the ash, we started at $7.37, and in 2014 we're at $9.21. It's going up at half of the CPI increase. This is the big one. What kind of money have we brought in? You can see each year the revenues, and if we total them up, we brought in about $36.8 million through 2013. The current situation, the contract ends 2017. There's some automatic extensions built in. Our current rate is $9.21. As I said earlier, it goes up at 0.5% change in the CPI. We have about 40 million yards of capacity, 4 million yards of capacity left. And in terms of what it's worth in the net present value, in other words, not factoring in the escalation, $36.8 million. The big question I get asked is, well, how long is that going to last? Well, it all depends on how much ash you bring in there per year. If we bring in 300,000 cubic yards a year, about another 13 years. If we brought up to 500,000, it would only last 8 years. So really depends on what we have left. So let's skip ahead to the future. In 2009, actually it was Bob Jakes, it wasn't even Don at the time, knocked on our door and he said, hey, we have an option to expand the footprint of the ash landfill from where it currently is, a little bit further south, to the Barnes property, and we'd like to talk to you about renegotiating the contract and expanding our capacity. And in 2014, just a month or so ago, Wheeler-Brader also purchased the former Surratt property. So we have 2 properties that the ash landfill could potentially expand on. I'm going to first talk about the Barnes property. Before you start a negotiation, what I like to do is do what we call a SWOT analysis. Look at our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and our threats. And we first looked at our strengths. We felt one of our biggest strengths was location. The ash that's generated down in Bridgeport and Preston, you have to go right by Putnam to get up to our competitor up in Shrewsbury. So we thought that was a huge advantage. When we looked at 2 other places where ash is created, out in the New York White Plains area and Hartford, probably a little easier to get up to Shrewsbury than it is to Putnam through the back roads. But those were our strengths. Our weaknesses, at the time, Shrewsbury had negotiated a deal that was much more favorable to Wheeler-Brader than our rate was. I think their rate was as low as $3.75. It's escalated to $4.21. I think we were at $8.37, but it's escalated to $9.21. So, make a long story short, we were kind of at a weakness compared to our competition when it came to rates, but obviously we make more money at a higher rate. Opportunities, as we talked about earlier, the opportunity of expanding the current footprint of the ash landfill could more than double our capacity. And threats, we talked about our low rate. The rate was so low that Shrewsbury had, it could negate our geographical advantage. It might make more sense to drive right by Putnam and bring up the ash of the Shrewsbury. In terms of the environment, ash could now be used as a daily cover for existing landfills. So instead of covering the trash at a traditional landfill with sand at the end of the day, you could actually use ash now in Massachusetts. And of course, legislation is increasingly favorable in pushing recycling. When you recycle, you burn less trash and you make less ash. So that was kind of the state of the economy back then. So, cut to the chase. After almost 6 years of negotiations, the first contract, or the first deal we made, was with the Barnes property only. And it's what we call a blended rate. The first 200 cubic yards in a year's time will be at our current rate, escalated at the 0.5% change in CPI. The second 200 cubic yards, 200,000 cubic yards, will be at a new rate, which is 5.13, but it escalates faster. It's 0.75% of the change in CPI. Now that's 400,000 cubic yards right there. If they want to go and have a banner year and put another 100,000 cubic yards to bring it up to 500,000 cubic yards, that rate would be 719, again with a 0.75% escalation. And let's say they get real crazy and have a banner year, anything over that would revert back to our 921 rate. And those are what we call escalated rates. That's today's rate, and they would escalate with whatever they go to in the future. The Surratt property, that is a separate deal. Estimated target capacity of about 1 million cubic yards. That was kind of thrown in at the end, and we kind of held our ground. That currently, the deal that we negotiated is that has the same rate as our existing footprint, the higher rate, the 921. So, looking at this, I guess probably the logical question is, why did you guys drop the rates? Why didn't you just extend the rate that you currently had at the ash landfill and go with the Barnes property? Well, we tried. Believe me, we tried. Right, Owen? I mean, the first few, and Tony, the first few meetings, and Don, that's where we kind of was a foothold. And basically, it's a whole different structure than what is there now. What is there now is that the ash is being dumped on Putnam's land. with this acquisition, with the Barnes property, Wheelabrator actually had to go out and acquire the property. They have options on it. It's a private deal, so we didn't get to see the dollar amount, but we had our attorney look at it, and he assured us that they were telling the truth and there was some sizable dollars involved in the acquisition cost. And you also have to realize that the ash is not guaranteed to Putnam or guaranteed to Wheelabrator. Wheelabrator actually has to go out and compete for the ash. There's a competitor of Wheelabrator's called Covanta, and they compete for the ash. So they said basically point blank, if you guys wanted the 921 rate, it wasn't going to happen. So we'll take a look at where we stand. This slide, Owen thought was kind of confusing, but I think it tells the whole story. If we look up in this yellow box, this is our current ash landfill. Our rate is 921. We have about a 4 million cubic yards of capacity left. As I said earlier, the net present value is 36.8. And depending on how much ash you bring in per year, that's how many years you'd have left. The targeted new capacity of the Barnes property is 4 to 6 million. I'm a conservative guy. Let's just focus over on the 4 million. If we take 4 million for the Barnes property, the targeted capacity, plus the 4 million that we have, brings us over to an 8 million potential capacity of the two properties. Now, these slides over here show, because we have a blended rate now, you have to look at, well, how much ash would they bring in per year to figure out what we're going to generate in revenue and then what the remaining capacity would be in the life. So let's say they go crazy and take our 3 tiers or our 3 tranches, do 200, 200, 100, that's 500,000 per year. It would last about 16 years. Net present value would be about 57 million. If they just do the 400,000, it would last about 20 years. And if they only do 200,000, it would last 40 years. So it's bigger than the 36.8. Yes, Peter?
What's the consensus on growth as Wheelabrator sees it? That's
Growth?
what I want to know. Growth. You have different analysis here showing us between different levels.
Right.
And so what seems to be the consensus of the actual growth going
Well,
forward that they see?
if you look at my slide that I had in the beginning to show you
Right, I
the
saw that.
positive, I think our high was like 354,000, and it actually has been on an uptick. But we're fortunate to have Don here from Wheelabrator.
That's what I-
Don, can you shed any light on Peter's question?
So growth in the amount of material coming in?
Right.
Yep.
Right now, we're taking the ash from all of Connecticut's waste energy plants. Some at the Wallingford plant's not coming to us right now here in Putnam. That's going to Massachusetts. That plant is closing. There's potential that in a few years the Hartford plant may close or become a different type of solid waste facility. The only ash that we're guaranteed to take here in Putnam, and I say guaranteed is what Wheelabrator controls, is the ash from our Bridgeport plant and our Lisbon plant. We compete for all the other ash that's out there. Our contract for the Hartford ash and for the Preston ash is through the former CRA, which is now the MIRA authority still. And we just signed an extension for the Preston ash until 2017. The Hartford ash we only have until 2017. And for both of those, we'll have to bid on that again in 2 years, or a year and a half. So the growth that's out there was, like Scott mentioned earlier, is the Westchester, New York, the Peekskill, New York plant. That ash is coming here right now because it's the most economic place for it to go.
And what's the status on that going forward?
That's one of our plants, so we can direct that to wherever it makes sense. Right now, Putnam is the best option for it. If rates were to stay higher, then we're competing against other sites in
What's the
Pennsylvania.
tonnage of just that plant?
180,000 tons a year. So it's a
That's
big plant.
sizable.
Yes, it's a big plant. Right now, the landfill is doing well over 3,000 tons per day of ash and coal ash as well coming in. So that Westchester plant,
So that's under your direct control on where that goes?
correct. But there's sites in Pennsylvania that want that material that are actually almost as close to drive south that way. So we're on, even internally, I'm always, every year when we come to budgeting, they look at, okay, what are the haul costs of this site, what are the fees, what are the pure operating costs, and we compare them every single year. And I have to keep pulling it my direction, in your direction as well.
Yep.
It's good that you take the lower number, like on the 4,000 I saw on the last screen. It's not on this screen.
Hold your questions till he finishes all these things.
Yeah, but the questions come up, I've got to ask now because the
Write 'em
numbers
down.
aren't going to
Okay, write 'em down.
be,
Okay.
the numbers aren't going to be there.
All right, so far we've talked in net present value. Owen likes to talk in escalated costs. As you can see, our three rates, it's a terrible place to shoot the slide on, but our rates start at the, I can lift that up a little bit, Doug, yeah. The 921, the 719, the 513, it'll go off in a second. At a 2.5% inflation rate, now we picked that inflation rate because from 1999 to 2013, that's about what we average. But as you can see, 921 would escalate up to 1138, 986 from 719, and 704. That's in an 18-year lifespan. With the 0.75% in change in CPI, you can see the slope's a little greater. Inflation rate of 4%. As you can see, we almost touch here at year 18 between our lower rate and our higher rate. And just for the fun of it, because I like to show fancy graphs, if we ever had hyperinflation like we did back in the 70s, as you can see at about year 11, our lower rate with a higher escalation rate would actually surpass the higher starting rate. So this slide shows what we project we would be in at year 16 and 18. With a 2.5% inflation rate, 8 million yards of capacity with the remaining Putnam capacity and the barns, 1 million yards of capacity at the Surratt, and assuming Wheeler-Brader maxes out their matrix here at 500,000 cubic yards per year, we would, in year 16, have brought in about 64.5 million. The Surratt property about 11.2, a total of about $75 million in the next 18 years. And again, this is pure speculation. There's no guarantees of anything, but we just wanted to see, with our new escalator rates, what it would be at. In summary, the upside for Putnam is the 4 million yards at 921 is worth about 36.8 million. The expanded capacity could increase our net present value from 60 to almost 100 million, and our tiered rates have a higher escalation, the 0.75 compared to 0.50. Another upside for Putnam, and Don showed us a presentation a few months ago about this, it's currently operating at the ash landfill. There's two types of metal in the ash. There's ferrous metal and non-ferrous metal. Very easy to get ferrous metal out. Even a child could do it. You take a magnet, it sucks the metal out, and you got that out. And they do that at the where it's burned. The non-ferrous metal, and this stuff is the size of pennies and nickels, is actually done right now. They're testing it right at the ash landfill. The reason I'm telling you this is we get to tax that property. And looking at this equipment, it's not cheap, ladies and gentlemen. So that could help us out. And anything that they bring out of the ash actually increases our capacity. So upside for Putnam, the Surratt property, because we didn't let Wheeler-Brader talk out of both sides of their mouth. They said, hey, we had a high acquisition cost, that's why we need these lower rates at the Barnes property. All right, we bought into that. But we found out, and it was no secret, that the Surratt property, they've got it at a bargain basement rate. Well, you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you're going to buy the property cheap, well, you're going to pay us the higher rate, and they agreed to that. Potential risks and safeguards, what if the site doesn't get built, okay? We're blending these two rates, and not that I don't trust Don or anybody at Wheeler-Brader, but we got to look out for Putnam's best interest. So we put milestone marks and a date to acquire an operating permit, and if that wasn't enough, and I think it was Owen's idea, he said, look, pay us the differential between the new lower rates on those other two tranches to equal our existing rate, which is 408 and 208 per year, and put it into an escrow account while the site's being built. That way, if the site never gets built, we have a little protection. We did negotiate to let them draw down that if there's cost associated with the new development, but we've capped it at about we've capped it at $2.5 million to limit our exposure. That would be the absolute worst case scenario if for some reason, and we don't think it's going to happen, I'm assuming Wheeler-Brader doesn't either, if they went through and built the site and then it didn't get permitted. But just to show you what's in the contract. Putnam has the opportunity to acquire the expanded property if Wheeler-Brader abandons it. to be truthful, if Wheelabrator abandons it, we're probably not gonna want it either, but just to let you know it's in the contract. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is about a 30-minute presentation done in about 12 and a half minutes.
Question.
All right. Yes.
You're using an inflation rate of 2.5%.
2.5%.
That's
Why did
very
we?
high.
Well, we looked at from 1999 to 2013. The average was 2.5%.
That's true, but things have changed over the last 5 years. And
Exactly.
It doesn't look like it's going to get any better
And as
over
I
the
said,
next 5 years.
pure speculation. You know, I used a 10% rate. I don't think that's going to happen either. But that's. I had a 2% in there, and no one said no. Put it at 2.5. So pure speculation. I got the Excel spreadsheet. We could play whatever inflation rate you want. If you notice, one of the slides in there, we actually had deflation from 07 to 08. They went down. Our rate went down. So.
Good.
I'm trying to understand the slide that you had, where you had the different rates for the Barnes property, and then the singular rate for the Surratt property. Could we go back?
Let's
Couple
see.
more?
This one right here?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is the Barnes footprint, okay? They're estimating about 4 million, 4 to 6, but we're being conservative here. They're saying, and I'm going to talk in a 4 million yardage capacity, okay? Whatever they put in, now we're blending the existing capacity of Putnam and the new capacity of the Barnes property, okay? We're blending into this rate. First 200,000 yards, and we wanted to make sure that we were at least as good or better than if we did nothing at all, okay? Net present value of what we have today is $36.8 million. We didn't want to make a whole new deal and expose ourselves to potential risk if we were going to make less money. So, as you can see, even in a net present value, we went from 36 to 57, and it could go as high as 73, depending how much stuff they bring in. So these now are, we call them tranches, and I've learned all this in negotiations, but the first 200,000 yards they bring in, they're paying exactly what they were paying at our current rate, in an escalation. But the next 200,000 yards, we didn't go as low as Shrewsbury, but we did the 513. Now, why did we do this? Because they're saying, look, we're buying the land, guys. It's costing us a lot of money, but let's make a deal. So that's the next is 513. The third 100,000 is 719, and anything over that goes back up to the 921 rate. That's on 4 million potentially yards at Barnes. Well, 4 to 6, but we're using 4 to be conservative, and the remaining 4 that we have in Putnam. Surratt, because they got that at a bargain basement price, we're stupid, but not that stupid. We said, look, you know, you got it at a bargain basement price, pay us the higher rate.
If we could go back.
Yep.
Very quickly, okay. The thing that I'm trying to understand is you have steps here.
Per year.
In lay language,
Yep.
we have steps.
Per
okay?
year.
We have 200,000 for the first step.
Right.
200,000 for the second.
Yep.
100 for the third.
Right.
Okay.
And we actually have a fourth step that goes back up to the high rate, the 200,000 rate.
Right. What I'm trying to understand is we have, call it 4 million additional capacity on the Barnes property.
Right. 4 to 6, but we're using 4.
Okay. And about 4 million current.
Remaining in our current site.
Okay. And we get, on average, how much per year in ash?
It's been as low as 1.1.
I'm talking about
dollars?
tonnage.
Tonnage? Well, let's go way back to the beginning here. Look, that's dollars, and here's yards, not tonnage, but cubic
Well, yeah,
yards.
yards, right.
Yep.
So,
354 or 60.
so call it 350 on average. Can we call it 350 on average, just so we can?
Yeah,
hang our head on
I
the
bet you
number?
it's a below 3, but whatever number.
Let's call
whatever
it 3.
Let's call it 3. Yep.
Okay, so let's go back to that slide with the different steps.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So we do, on average, 300,000 yards per year.
Right.
So in year one, they will be paying 921 on the first 200,000.
Yep.
And then 513 on the third 100,000.
Yep. Now, this is every year. These steps are every year. They reset.
Yeah,
You
right,
follow me?
first they start
So this
over
isn't a
again.
year's snapshot.
Okay.
So, in other words, Shrewsbury gave them the low rate for as much as they bring in, and then the end of the year it resets again.
And the escalation
Is
is
the rates.
when we start over the following year, it comes up.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
I
So-
understand.
So, yeah, this is just a year snapshot, and then the next year it changes.
Resets.
Just,
Yep.
just in the escrow for the $4 and $2, that's gonna be about $1 million a year if they got to the 500,000. That'd be $1 million a year would go into escrow. And then if it took them 10 years before they did the Barnes property, and they decided they couldn't do it, that $10 million is ours.
I'm not gonna tell Don how to run his business, and I'm sure he knows how to run it better than I could, but I gotta believe that they're sitting there with this carrot out in front of them, this 513, and even the 719. I'm thinking we're probably gonna see a little more ash. When they crunch the numbers, do we bring it to Pennsylvania or bring it to Putnam? So I think, in it purely speculation, I would believe that our capacity or our capacity utilization is probably gonna go up.
To 400.
Or maybe even
Maybe
500.
five.
Right.
Who knows? You know,
It starts all over January.
The
1st again.
most that they've ever brought in was
357, I think. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay, so,
At the current high rate.
right.
Yeah.
So they would actually be getting quite a bargain if they said, we'll bring 400
Yep.
and just stop there.
That's the maximum, capacity utilization, that's the best deal for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
The
you.
reason they did that is the committee council calculated what we've been receiving in terms of ash and how much we've committed towards the budget. So typically, we book $2.5 million. So if you take those two figures there, the first and the second, it comes out to about 2.8 million.
But I would
So-
tend to agree with them. Scott, can you go back to that same screen we had?
Which one you want?
The one we just had.
With
up?
steps.
Oh,
Steps.
yeah.
It looks to me like they're not going to go higher than 500,000 because it reverts back to the 921 rate.
You never
Because
know.
then, no, I'm just saying,
Yep.
it wouldn't be probably feasible. That's why
You're
that
probably
rate's
right.
there at 921, to show us what the number is, but in fact, the number may be a bogus, a number that we're really going to take advantage of, or they're not going to take advantage of because of the rate itself.
Great.
I'd like to thank you, Scott, for
No
a
problem.
very, very
Thank
good
you.
presentation about the 18th time I've seen it.
Right.
Very good.
But
It gets better.
It does, I gotta admit.
But the 719 I gotta say, should look enticing to you.
Mr. Mayor,
So,
Yes, sir. Doug.
Very good.
one more comment. Doug, you had mentioned that if we went with the first two steps, that would bring in approximately 2.8.
Oh, there we go. If they maxed it out, those are the first two steps right there. 2.868.
If my memory serves me, I believe we've been over 3 million and probably well over 3 million per year from the ash landfill, historically, at least in recent history.
Just recently, last couple of years.
That's going into the escrow
3.7 in 2000 and,
Yeah.
I guess that's 13, yeah, because we don't have 14's number. 2.7, 3.5, bounces all around, 2.9. So. Now, we do have a little bit of a bump, but coal ash is going away, right? Is it next year?
Plant is gonna close.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we do have these numbers represent a little premium we got in coal ash, and if you look at the beginning, you can see the coal ash is represented in red. So we do, these numbers are lying a little bit. It's not all just regular ash, but once the coal ash goes away, that
But it
premium
isn't
goes
going to
down.
be that much difference.
Well, that's
Just looking
quite
at
a
the
bit.
numbers.
It's up only
Coal ash is
$7.
what, $4 more on?
Yeah, it's $4.
Scott, you had mentioned something right at the end of your presentation about mining out the non-ferrous
Yes.
metals. Would that be deducted from the tonnage?
Well, the way think of the ash landfill as a cup, okay? So you put ash in, and then every year, both our side and Don's side, GPS look at the level, and we agree upon a level and say, okay, the differential between this year and last year, boom. Now, what I'm saying is the ash and the ferrous metals, I don't think is going to make a huge difference, because I went up there and Doug went up there. Out of a 6-month window, when your first test site was done, out of the 6-month window, there was a pile of non-ferrous metals, maybe the size of this room, you know, the cubic yards of room. Now, if it goes well, maybe you want to start digging up the existing ash and mining that non-ferrous metal. Who knows? But I'm saying if they take stuff out, the more stuff that comes out potentially, you know, would increase our capacity. But I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. I like the idea about taxing that, you know, billions of dollars of equipment up there on top of the hill.
Billions?
Well, that's kind of where I'm going.
Yep.
Nobody would move that expensive of equipment up there if they didn't think that it was worth it.
Yeah, and they have to ship the non-ferrous metals back to the Netherlands to sell them. There's no place in America that'll even take them, which surprised the heck out of me that the business model was profitable. And I'm like, wow. You want to get into a business, Mr. Zanone? The heck with this rehabbing houses. Go into the non-ferrous metals.
I'm getting my sieve out as I.
That question. They've got to be making money or they wouldn't be doing
Right.
it.
Right, that's why I'm asking. So
Yeah.
if you're removing material, if you're removing tonnage,
Right.
the meter doesn't go backwards.
No,
does it?
no, it's not a net gain. Now, the other thing is, the one final comment before I close it up, the advantage to bring it to Putnam, there's not a machine like this up in Massachusetts. So, you know, I'm saying that's going to be a little bit of a perk to bring this stuff down to Putnam too. So I'll rest my case.
Well, it's good we have that piece of equipment here.
Exactly.
That didn't take it.
If we end up with more than 8
Motion to
million,
accept the report of the committee and refer it, if you want, with your recommendation to the Board of Finance and the Planning Commission.
That's the motion that has to be made.
Okay.
let me talk about, if there's more than 8 million, say we got 9 million, that's gonna be another $9.2 million to the town. For every million more coal ash, and another 9.2 million. By the time that comes in, that's gonna be at an inflated rate. You know, it's gonna be up around $11.
Owen put a lot of time into it. I did this all in Excel
It came out
spreadsheet, but
perfect.
show them your sheets, Owen.
Owen
I
doesn't-
mean, that's the
I did it by hand.
that's the old-fashioned way of doing math, ladies and gentlemen, and they came out almost to the penny.
Putnam
So,
Elementary School, right?
that's right.
I don't have a fancy machine.
Oh,
Well, I want to see what it looks like.
Okay.
To one of the other agenda.
Okay.
Okay, we need a motion?
I'll make a motion that we refer this to the planning
No,
board.
accept the recommendation of the Ash Landfill Viability Committee and refer with, positive if you want, to the Board of Finance and the Planning Commission.
That's what I said.
We need a second.
No, we
Motion
got a
made
typo
and second.
mistake here,
Yeah.
too.
In what?
The rates versus, the written
Page-
rates versus the...
page 6.
Page 6.
It says $4.11, and somebody put 408. And then
I think
it
we
says
changed that, didn't we?
$2.05 to
Wasn't that
202.
Tom, did you say?
But it never, it's not.
I'll check it,
changed.
double check it.
Okay. Motion made and second to accept the report, refer it to the planning and Board of Finance. Is that the motion? Yep. Are there any other questions?
With favorable recommendation.
With favorable recommendation. Denise,
And
put that
thanks
in there.
to the committee.
And thank you to the committee.
I have a question.
Question?
If we send it to the Board of Finance, do they get the same presentation?
I'd be willing to do it again.
I won't go.
As long as I get paid the same amount as I did for this one, I'll go with it.
You'll get the same, you'll get the same.
If they,
I
I'll
would
talk,
hate
I'll
to
talk to
say-
Joe Nash and say, Joe, Scott has a presentation, you want the committee to see it? I'm sure he'll say yes, and Scott can do it again.
So-
We give him $1 every time.
Just so they have the information, I think it's very valuable.
And then just so you know,
Things-
after the Board of Finance looks at it, then they would bring it back to us and
Right.
we'd set it for a town meeting
meeting.
because the townspeople are the
Right.
ultimate.
Have the last
say.
shot.
So you get another shot at it too.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Are there any exceptions? Okay, ayes have it, so voted. Charter revision, Doug, do you have anything?
We're going to have to put this off until the new year too.
I went to, this is you too, I went to the senior citizens Christmas party yesterday, and 4 of the elder ladies, the elders I call them, from East Putnam, said, if you do, they like the idea of, 2 places, can we use East Putnam's new firehouse for voting in November? I said, well, that's up to the East Putnam Fire Department. I said, it's a great building, there's a huge community room in there, and I said, the selectman who represents that area seems to be in favor of it. Now, we'd have to put that in a motion to change that?
Yes.
I think the registrars have
To change what? Registrants.
To
From
change the
Fox
voting
Road
place.
to East Putnam, or do you have to get a clearance from your group?
I would have to get clearance from my board.
Okay?
According to the charter, it basically says we need 2 places.
Right.
It doesn't say where, it just says 2, correct?
Correct.
So it's the Board of Selectmen that would choose where they vote?
I think
No.
I'm
The registrar.
to. I think we just consult with the registrars on
But you have
that.
to do it in 90 days before the election, so that's what I'm saying. Can you go to your board from now until January, and get an affirmative, yes, we can use this place, then I'll come back here, and we'll talk to the registrars, and then it's very convenient, and you can show off the firehouse because it's beautiful. Okay?
Okay.
Good enough.
Sounds good.
Facility Study Committee, anything?
Thursday night.
Thursday night. Alma, you have any report?
What time Thursday night? 7, 6:30? 7:30?
7:30, that's the latest meeting of all, 7:30.
Is.
Refreshments will be served by Renee. Okay, staff reports. You all received your staff reports. You have the economic and community development. We had the building official, we had the town planner, assessor, and that's what we had. Now, do we do Delphus thing now or later?
Later.
Okay. Does anybody have any question? Any selectman have any question on any of these reports?
The energy consumption, can we realistically achieve the goal of 117,
Wait,
571
Which
what
one
are
is
you
this?
looking at?
Which report?
energy consumption?
What report is that?
P12, what report are you looking at?
Just let myself some notes there, so I can dig through this. There's so many freaking papers here. No, it's on the energy one.
Energy. Are you looking later in the, I think you're looking later in the agenda.
The Clean Energy Municipal Pledge?
That one?
Item 12B?
Yeah,
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
okay.
Okay, no question on that, so we're moving on.
Well, I thought that was for Doug, so.
Okay, no problem. That's why Sean Johnson's here. 10, unfinished business. Quinnipiac Regional Technology Park.
I would move that to the energy agenda under executive.
Okay, we will do.
You have to make that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made second to move item 10A to executive session.
The 13.
Move it to 13A.
You did not have that on the agenda, possible executive session. Is that,
You have possible discussion,
At
possible.
Don't we need it
regular,
two-thirds?
at a regular meeting, not at a special meeting, but at a regular meeting of a town board or commission, you can vote to add an executive session to an agenda item by a 2/3 vote.
okay.
If you know it's coming up, you're supposed to put it in the warning, but if something comes up that you didn't have knowledge of, then you can put it in, you can vote that night.
Right.
So there's a motion to put that in executive session. There's a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
So we had a motion, Renee first, Al second.
Alan and Peter. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We have better than 2/3, so we'll move that down to,
You blew me off.
3/3.
why are we going?
Don't we do that later? Oh,
I was just going to add some things, but that's okay.
That took too much of your time.
I just wanted
Go
to,
ahead.
do you mind?
No.
Okay. Just one thing, I reported that the high school building committee opened bids today, and these are for the major trades for the high school. So this is the bulk of the money that's going to be spent. It's in the range of $23 million, I think, for the construction. I'm happy to report that the bids that have come in, and again, this is only based on the low apparent bidders. We have to review those bids, but it's expected that the pricing came in approximately $800,000 to $1.4 million under our estimated construction costs.
That's good. That'll balance out the abatement for asbestos and stuff.
But again, sometimes, the bidders make errors, and
Okay.
so our construction manager is going to be reviewing them. I think they're going to make recommendations
Right.
tomorrow night
Tomorrow
for
night.
two awards, two of the major trades, and so the project's moving along.
Okay,
And one other thing.
go.
Just for your information, again, it sort of goes along the way of needs assessment. We were presented with an opportunity to get 4 hours of training for staff on the AccuFund software package. So we could make it a complete day of training. We added 4 hours, so today we completed actually over 8 hours of training for all the staff that have any involvement with AccuFund, from accounts payable to payroll to budgeting to grants management to you name it. Purchase orders, the whole 9 yards. So for once, the staff has had all the, one opportunity to get as much training as they possibly could within that period.
A question on that. Do they have sufficient, or do they have to come back for more training?
We're going to find that out, and we will determine if there's more training, and we will make those arrangements. The other thing that we are going to make arrangements for is that AccuFund does provide you with both webinars and also manuals. So we will be making sure that we have access to those manuals and as needed, if people want to go on and to view the webinars, then they will be able to. So I think it was very productive. I was not able to sit in on most of the training, but Denise sat in for all of it. We also got straightened out in terms of who is going to have the various access to the modules. So that was another thing that came out of the meeting. And then also on needs assessment, I'm sorry, I'm jumping over here.
That's okay.
But in terms of the needs assessment, I have had discussions with our auditors, and as soon as they have basically completed the audit for the town, they will be assigning one of their senior staff to assist us in terms of some of our difficulties in terms of the financial.
Another reason why I'm bringing it up, Doug, it appears that we really haven't been receiving the training we should have been from AccuFund. And maybe it'd behoove us to have another session to get more, and who knows where that'll bring us with regard to what the needs assessment will be needed or not. I don't know.
Right.
It's just unfortunate that we never had it to start with.
Well, just for the record, we've had 4 financial directors in the last 2 years. And we've had a system that only one person understood. And today, hopefully, this will be the culmination of a lot of arguments. And they went over accounts payable, accounts receivable, cash management, cash receipts, employee portal, break, they had a break, general ledger, payroll, year-end, purchasing reports, grant module, inventory, and fixed assets. So we had a very, very good session this morning. And along with that, Doug and I went to the police station and had a presentation by Pride about drinking and driving, and the beautiful program they're putting out. These are little coasters that have 5 points, and they're going to be distributed to all the restaurants, social clubs, and bars in our town. So if you have a sarsaparilla in front of you, and you take a sip, and you look at the thing, it tells you what to do.
The point I'm trying to make on the training, Tony, is this is the first time
Peter,
that our
I've been after
people,
this for 2 years.
that our people
Yes.
have had really good training
Well,
in terms of what they need. Right.
I don't
So,
want to mention names, but someone was told staff that they were trained, and that person would train the staff. It never happened.
never happened. So I just want to make sure that we have it available from AccuFund in case we need more
Oh, yeah.
training. That's all I'm trying to
At
say.
$1.75 an hour, if we need it, we'll get it.
And the other thing, again, the questions that have come up in terms of AccuFund as a municipal software package. I think what we found today, and again, I don't want to speak for the participants, but I think the participants understand more about it as a municipal accounting software. And I think it does serve us very well. In fact, there are certain things within the software package that, if we had the training available, we could really knock this financial stuff out of the park in terms of what AccuFund has the strength to do for us.
It was also, Peter, affecting employees, not just the staff.
Oh, yeah.
An example, there's insurance buyouts every 6 months. And some of the employees wanted a separate check with no taxes taken out. Carolyn didn't know how to do that. And I said, it has to work. we paid $60,000 for the system, and she got straightened out today. Just do this, and there you go. So everybody's a little happier now. Simple, but they were never taught that. Okay.
I'm sorry to get off.
No, that's okay. We didn't want to throw you under the bus. All right, 11, grant consideration updates. You have anything?
Yes,
Chris?
as part of the Quinnipiac Regional Technology Park, as you know, we have various ways of we're going to be paying for the development of the tech parks, whether it's the 2.97 million for the bridge, the $469,000 we got in steep grant in 2012, and we're applying for the 2015 steep grant of $500,000. We have USDA, a portion of the utilities for sewer and water being paid for by a loan through the USDA and a grant from the USDA. So the last piece of the package, so-called, is that what we had gone out to the other towns and said, you know, the net cost to those towns is going to be $800,000. And that's based on the last funding part of the package, which is the municipal development project grant application, which is through the Economic Development, the Department of Economic and Community Development. And now that we know where all the other costs are coming from, we have a good idea in what we will be applying for that, the gap financing for the project. So I would like to have a recommendation from the Board of Selectmen tonight to apply for the Municipal Development Project program for the Quinnipiac Regional Technology Park.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any discussion? Any questions for Doug? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
The only update that I have is we received the $50,000 for the Making Places grant from the Connecticut Trust for Historic Preservation. I wrote a grant for $300,000 for Belding Mill, for structural assessment, the National Register application, and finalizing all the hazardous building materials. I received a short list notice 2 weeks ago from Director Sullivan, and I go for an interview on Thursday morning. There are myself and 7 others from the state. And this is the first time we've ever had to make a presentation for this. So,
Is that good or bad?
I'm never going to say, I have no clue.
Okay.
It's the first
Good
time.
answer.
We have a 50-50 shot, let's put it that way.
When does Delphi come out with the Cargill Fall Mills? That
That was right before you go into the executive session.
Okay. You mentioned bridge. Can you give us an update on the bridge? When is Tully going to start cutting trees?
There's a holdup in terms of the encroachment permit that we need to get from the District 2 office of the Department of Transportation. You and I tomorrow will have to sit down and we'll have to make some calls to see if we can speed that up.
Okay. Good enough. Okay.
Did we add Delphi's?
Yeah.
Was it a motion to add?
Did you act on mine?
No,
Yeah.
We didn't vote on Doug's.
No, we're talking about. We didn't vote to add Delphi.
I thought we voted on 13A.
No, that was a moving session.
Okay, we'll have to do that first. Well, let's vote on Doug's first, because that's probably right now. Then we'll go back and put Delphi in the executive session. All those in favor of Doug's recommendation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Are there any upset? Anybody? No? Okay. I just haven't so voted. Now let's go back to Delphi.
Make a motion that we put Delphi on the agenda for item, that would be 13. G, Ryan.
12G.
12G?
Motion for Delphi on 12G, second by Scott Penpack. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. New business. Consider retaining Paul R. Michaud as the town's legal representation regarding solar requests for proposal. Doug and I spoke to the fellow on the phone. This is not going to cost the town 1 penny, and we have the opportunity to save a lot of money. And there'll be no study, because that costs money too. This fellow, Paul, he's a lawyer, and this is what he does for a life. Where's he getting his money from, Doug?
It's built into the contract.
So it's not going to cost us anything. And he's looking at the old landfill, make a solar
Could
farm.
you put that?
Right there, buddy.
There
Okay,
it
so
is.
if you look to the top of the green space there, that's where we, up farther south, right there. You go across there. When we had received the proposal from the local firm, that was where they were going to be putting the solar arrays. And I forgot how much kilowatt hours they had there. If you go even further, if Wheelwright would let us, we have all that space there on the
Come on down.
Old Ash landfill. But for now, we're just concentrating on the municipal.
Where would that power go?
Power would go to us as
When
the
you say
town.
us, where?
Or go, the net zero meter, go back in the grid.
Right.
Go back in the grid and then CLP?
But we would get credit for it against our wastewater treatment plant. We'd get it for,
Did Sean Johnson hear that, so he can make sure?
Yeah, but the other thing that is a possibility is because we are developing a tech park, if we could do this, it would be nice if we could offer, that kind of energy cost to any new tenants that come into the tech park. But that's, right now, I think only the beneficial accounts can be municipal.
Right.
Okay, so we need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made, second to consider retaining Paul Michaud as a legal representative for solar request. Discussion?
Yeah. I know I've worked with Martha and Karina quite a few times during my years manufacturing, good people. As I read through this, it appears to me that we don't pay a cent. I just want to make sure that
Everything's in hand.
So,
Seeing no more questions? Yep, question. Yep.
You said the motion was to consider. Is this motion to retain him or to
Yes.
consider retaining him?
To retain him and authorize the mayor to sign the letter of engagement.
Have a document for engagement. With that clarification, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Are there any abstentions? B, consider clean energy communities municipal pledge. Sean, you want to speak to that? This is your baby.
I would love to. Thank you, Mayor Calderano. I don't know what material you have in front of you.
They got the
You
pledge.
do, okay. So, to sum it up, and I know it's been a long meeting, but basically, I'm here to ask Putnam to consider going on an energy diet. It's a good faith estimate, it's a good faith effort. It's not a legal binding contract to force Putnam to do anything. There's no money involved, you don't have to pay to sign this. It basically says that Putnam is going to make every effort to reduce their energy consumption. And this isn't just electrical consumption, it's to reduce their, in this case, I'm sorry, to reduce their electrical consumption by 20% by the year 2018. And so, to me, it's a win-win. If Putnam doesn't end up fulfilling the entire pledge and doesn't get to 20%, but let's say it gets to 13%, 14%, 14% less of that consumption, just a savings alone is a benefit. And then Putnam also, as part of that program, can earn grants for being part of that program as they hit benchmarks, and they'd be eligible for up to two $5,000 grants a year toward energy-saving projects. And we've already been tracking points that Putnam, if they were in the program, is up to. And so basically, once Putnam joins the program, they're already over that first $5,000 Bright Energy grant. So sometime in 2015, Putnam would receive their first $5,000 grant.
Sean and I talked, he talked for 2 hours or more. And I'm quite impressed.
There were some basketball stories.
One or two.
I'm sure it was all clean energy.
This is not going to cost us anything, and it's a way to earn money and lower our rates. So, as he said, it is a win-win, and you have the diagram of how it's going to work in each fiscal year, 2018, and I'm sure we will get there with the 20% reduction.
I move that we sign the Clean Energy Communities Municipal Pledge.
Second.
Motion made, second, to sign the Clean Energy Pledge. Any more discussion or
Yes.
questions? B12.
Oh, yes, there's always questions. Sean, the energy consumption, can we realistically achieve the goal of 17% by 7/1? 2017, 2016, 2017. That seems like a pretty good number to try and achieve, and I'm just trying to get a hold on it.
Yeah,
in
part of
terms
it, one of the things that I didn't bring up is that we also allow, at some point Putnam's gonna pick a benchmark year, and you can go back, if you join now, you can go back as the benchmark year being 2009, 2010. It's sort of like you've been working pretty hard, you've already lost 20 pounds, and you say, okay, today I'm going on a diet, but over the last 3 months I've lost 20 pounds, I'd like to get credit for that. So basically, you can pick a baseline year and go back that far. I know that some of the work that Jerry Beausoleil was real instrumental in doing over at the water plant in Peak Brook Grove, we worked with Putnam on that. I know there was an awful lot of energy consumption on that project. There's almost no period of time where town energy usage is going up in their buildings.
Okay, so
So
what
you
we've done
can
in the
go back,
past and what
you possibly are quite a bit of the way toward that in some areas. So at some point, once you join the program, the big step will be for Putnam, will be benchmarking, sort of going back and looking at your energy bills for all of those years. And I did set electric usage earlier, but it's all of your energy consumption. So benchmarking all of that, oil, natural gas, electricity that you use in all your town-owned buildings. Go back, compile that, and twice a year, we go out to bid and work with an outside company to provide technical help to the towns also to do that benchmarking. So that it's sort of where are we on the scale, sort of like stepping on a scale if you're going on a diet. This is where we are, we allow you to get those.
Okay,
pounds
I
that you're already
wasn't
lost.
sure if it started from the day one meeting now, or whether we could go back.
You can't go back, 2009, 2010.
Keep going, yes, ma'am.
Just quickly, are, using that metaphor, are you also going to be giving us a personal trainer to help us figure out where we can cut our
There's a lot of
energy?
technical help that'll come along with that. A lot of webinars, and we've got people in our clean energy community division that can help out with that. What you probably have to do at some point in time to be really successful at it, and the towns that have been really successful at it, with Woodstock being one of the best towns in the state of Connecticut in this program, is to come up with an energy team, an energy task force. Woodstock calls them the green team or whatever it might be, but to get a group of citizens that voluntarily will come together on an energy task force. They would look at where you're using your energy. You're not going to spend a lot of money on a building that isn't a high energy consumer, so you want to see where you're at, where it makes sense to make the investments to get the savings. So. And of course, and then the second part of the pledge, which I didn't get to also, was to make a commitment, again, and it's a good faith commitment, to end up by 2018 having 20% of your energy consumption come from renewable energy sources. So 2 of the proposals at Putnam, one I heard tonight talked about was some solar panels. I read in the paper the other day about the plan to possibly partner with Paul Miller and Woodstock on that. So you've got some programs that you're already looking at that would get you a fair way toward that goal as well. And any progress you make toward it is beneficial, even if you don't make it all the way to fulfill the total pledge.
The only thing I like is you said step on a scale, you're looking at me and Owen.
And I looked in the mirror before I came here.
We have a motion on the floor. Any other
Can I ask
questions?
one question?
Yes, you
Do
may.
we have a benchmark what do we use for our benchmark in terms of determining our reduction?
You're gonna pick a baseline year.
Okay.
So basically, you're gonna go back and you're gonna compile your total energy usage for that baseline year.
Okay.
That's
Pick
gonna
the
be
highest year.
that's gonna be your starting point, so you're gonna pick your highest year.
Right.
It's very rare that your highest year isn't gonna be the further back you go.
Okay.
But possibly, there could be a situation where that might be, but that would probably be the exception rather
Okay.
than the rule.
Any other questions? Comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it, so voted.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you want him to sign this now and take it back?
I just signed it.
Again, if that works.
Nice.
We don't mess around. Very efficient. Okay, consider the appointment of Angela Borowski to the Putnam Arts Council.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to appoint Angelina to the Arts Council. All those in favor?
Angelica.
Angelica? All right, so I missed that name. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, Denise, you'll send her a letter, correct?
Yes.
Atta girl. All right, consider authorizing the mayor to sign, to sing.
Sing? You're gonna sing?
Yes.
You're gonna sing?
Energy management. Authorizing the mayor to sign a 2015 Energy Management Performance Grant Program application.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Doug, anybody have a question for Doug, what that is?
Yes.
This is the this is the reimbursement that we get to offset Ed Farron's salary. We can also get certain things in terms of equipment and that, but there's not that much. I think the total we get is $3,200. So that goes against basically said Ed's salary. It's a good thing. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those approving that motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody abstain? Anybody against? Okay. Approval of bills. Owen?
I'd like to make a motion to approve all bills that we signed before.
Second.
Motion made second to approve all bills. Any question on any of the bills?
No.
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
There was very little today.
Any abstentions? Ayes have it, so ordered. Now we go to executive session.
No.
No.
All other business?
All other business. Anybody have any business? Got any more slideshows or
No,
anything?
not tonight.
Okay.
That's me, right?
Okay, now we go to Delphi?
Now we're good.
Now we have to make a motion to go into executive session?
Is this one on executive session?
No.
No, she's not exactly.
This is public.
This is a public.
Part of it.
Unless it's on purpose you want to go in, I'm not aware of it. No.
I
Okay.
think we're calling that.
Okay. There's copies there. Does everybody get a copy?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody received a copy,
Yep.
and we have Delphi here and Bill here to clarify. Bill, maybe you can explain this in a Reader's Digest version for...
Okay, it's gonna take a little bit of history, but when the original grant for $500,000, Delphi, to clean up the mill came to the town, the state's language in the grant said that we were the grantee, we could have a subrecipient, which is the owner of the mill, but if there was a screw-up where the program was not conducted properly or the money was not spent properly, that the buck stops with the town of Putnam. To make sure that didn't happen, we put a mortgage lien and a conditional note on the property that said if the town of Putnam basically had to pay any money because of their failure to perform the grant or perform the grant guidelines properly, that they were liable to reimburse the town of Putnam. And I think that mortgage is either a first mortgage or there might have been $100,000 ahead of us or something. But basically, we're very close to a first mortgage lien on the whole mill complex. So that made the town feel much more comfortable about passing through the $500,000. And Delphi can maybe tell you what percentage, is that grant completely done or what percent?
We're going out to rebid on that now. I would say probably 25% has been done now. The application for the historic tax credits to be put on the National Register, the bid documents, some engineering has been done, that kind of thing. So what the property owners have asked, as you know, the Board of Selectmen several months ago adopted the CPACE program, and because this mill project is the first sustainable mill project in Connecticut, the purpose of the hydroelectric plant is crucially important to this because it'll be sold back to not only the tenants but to the grid. So CPACE has asked that we pretty much subordinate or give a confirmation that our $500,000 would go below the loan that was made to the Cargill Fall Mills owner. So it's a procedural thing. It's the redevelopment agency subordinates our housing rehab projects many times so that someone can refinance their project. So I just wanted to go to Bill to make sure that and get his opinion on this, and he suggested that we bring it to both the Board of Selectmen and to the Economic Development Commission.
There was an unusually large number of zeros involved in this project. 500,000 is what our grant was, and the grant that they're applying for through CPACE or the mortgage is, I think, $2,250,000, and it can go 10% higher than that if I read the documentation correctly. This is not the final sign-off, but it's a commitment to sign off, and then they would prepare the final documents for us to sign, as I understand it. So basically, what the town would be saying is that we would step back our lien and allow the 2.25 million for the hydro to go ahead of us. So instead of having a priority that was almost first, we would have this much money in front of us. If things go well, the hydro money going into the project should enhance the value of the collateral, and it should be a net win for the town. If things don't go well, then we would be at more risk in a second position than we would be in a first position. Because of the amount of money involved, I didn't think that the Delphi shouldn't have that on her shoulders, but it should be a presentation made to the Board of Selectmen. Because although the original mortgage, I think, went Delphi to the town of Putnam, acting by it through its Economic Development Commission, the lien really goes to the town of Putnam, so that if we're going to subordinate it, I felt the selectmen should be consulted.
So the logical question would be is, what is the approximate net value of this project? If we're stepping below, we got 2.2 in front of us, what's the value? I mean, if it's worth 50 million, I don't have a problem with it, but if it's only worth, 3 million, well, then we got an issue.
I'm not going to talk to you about value, Scott.
Well, what's the assessed value? Let's look at that.
My question, I want to ask Doug that kind of the same question. Didn't we have this discussion a few months ago? We're talking about applying for a grant, and I asked a series of questions about what was going to be done over there and what the total project cost was. Did you say it was around 22 or 23 million?
Yeah, Tim has a... Tim Sheldon's here, he's the Director of Development for this whole project. Maybe you could shed some light, Tim?
Right, as you know, we've received a loan from the CHAMP 5 program, which is the Department of Housing, for the $22.5 million project. The town of Putnam has filed with the Department of, OPM for an Urban Act grant for $2.5 million, and we're waiting. Hopefully in the next week or two we'll receive approval on that. That's critical to us because we have a first primary permanent mortgage group that is going to be coming in a little bit under $6 million. That's part of the capital, so that's $11 million. We also have, since we're on the National Register of Historic Places, which this Brownfield grant has allowed us to do part of the submission, we did the rest of it ourselves. We are going to be receiving private funds of $8.6 million when we get the project completed. So that's another large chunk of money that's coming into the project. We need to have a second mortgage, or not a second mortgage, but a bridge financing to take place before that money comes in from the federal government, or tax investment credits. It's private money. So that's the cash flow that's going to come into the project. It's all committed except for the Urban Act grant, which we're waiting for. What's the value of the property going to be? I don't know what it's going to be. We assume, after talking to the assessor, it's going to be in the $10 million range, in that range. We're going to be putting in $14.5 million of hard money into the utilities, infrastructure, all the housing, and all the commercial space. But you don't charge all of that when you do your assessment. We plan on breaking ground and having the closing for the project. There's 2 closings that have to take place. We have to have a closing for the hydro because we want to build it within the next 6 months. After it's built, then we throw the money, or we throw the power into the grid. As soon as the project comes online, we sell it to the tenants that are coming in at a fixed rate, which is going to be significantly below market rate, and to the residential users that come in. The second closing would be on the entire project. We'd start construction on it probably March 1st, and it's going to be a 13-month project. So you say, what's the value? as we stand right now, there have been building valuations done for the CHAMP program, and the building value as it's sitting there right now is around, $3.5 million. That was a valuation. When we get the brownfield money, which is being rebid, and we start that project, that's going to probably be a 2.5-month project, 3 months project to get it done. It's going to take, it's a safe site. Right now we have a verification on the entire site, except the interior. That's going to clean the asbestos from the property. It's going to clean the PCBs, the universal wastes, and the lead paint. Once that's done, then the building's completely clean, and it's able to be developed for residential standards. That's going to bring the value of the property up probably to $5 million. Just that $500,000 investment is going to have a major impact on the property. It's an interim security, which is what is now in place. It's going to stay until the brownfield abatement or remediation gets done. I would like to get that done. We'd like to get that done, hopefully within the next 3 months. And so it's going to stay for 3 months, and then when it's done, then we can do a release on that.
And what was the cost of the abatement?
The abatement, the money that came in from the town's application was $500,000.
But that's not enough to cover it all, right?
About $80,000 has been spent already. $75,000 maybe has been spent already.
Well, did we get a quote on it to see what it was going to cost to remediate?
We did the first bid, and the numbers, as I reported in one of the selectmen's report, we received 2 bids, and they were very, very far away from each other. So we're doing it as a phased-in approach this time with setting different priorities. Some of the CHAMPS funding can perhaps be used for some of the abatement, and we're looking at additional brownfields.
All I'm looking at is what is the total cost of remediation? We don't know.
We won't have that until the bids come in. Correct.
Because I've got a feeling that I know what we spent at the high school, Scott, just what we did there was way past what we expected. So
yeah.
We're talking,
and we
more
bid
than
out,
millions.
bid out the Putnam Foundry, and that came in less than we expected too. So, it's kind of a crapshoot.
If I may, just so that you understand a little bit about the first brownfield bid, we had the philosophy, and this works pretty good most of the time, that if you lump a bunch of product together, you get an economy of scale. So one company would come in and get a lump sum for the asbestos, the cleanups, and those sorts of things, so that you have one management group in, instead of putting it out to have one group come in and you have to manage how they do the sandblasting. One group come in just as the PCBs. So you got 4 people that you're trying to manage. Let's get one company to come in and deal with all of it. So we did the bid on the basis of 2 phases. One phase was the demolition of the buildings. There's 4 buildings that are falling down. Demolitions of the building and their cleanup. And then we did one bid on the asbestos, lead removal, universal waste, and PCBs. The problem is, and I was a lead in doing the economy of scale concept on this. The problem was they came in at very high levels, and we weren't able to dig into it to determine what was the asbestos cost. Was it $200,000, $175,000, $300,000? What was the PCBs? Was it like $75,000 or $25,000? We weren't able to get any qualitative information from the lump sum. And they were so disparate that when we talked to the state, they said, this has happened on 2 or 3 other communities, rebid it and do it more on a scope of work, scope of work, scope of work, scope of work, so that we'll have some qualitative information on it. And that's what Delphi and I are working through right now with the CME. Put it out to bid, hopefully, I don't know.
The bid documents are being worked on now, so
Yeah.
I would say within the next 2 weeks.
Doug?
Just a follow-up, Doug, and perhaps you, sir. The numbers that we had talked about a few months ago were about 23 million or so, and 5 million was going to be put up privately by the owners. That was the number that was presented.
Well, they were able to get a, what was it, mortgage?
Yeah, we have a permanent mortgage financial commitment for, I think it's $5.7 million.
Okay, so $23 million project, plus or minus, 5.7 put up by the owners.
That's part of it.
What's that?
That's towards that total.
That's correct. So the rest of the 23 million, once you subtract the 5.7, comes from public sources.
Champs, Urban Act.
But let me, if I may, Doug, the CHAMP funding is a loan. It's a loan, we have to pay it off. There's a balloon payment at the end, and so, yes, it's state money, but it is.
And what's the total CHAMP portion of the project?
$5 million. Okay, so there's $5 million loan, it's a CHAMP. The only grant that we have, that we don't have yet, would be a companion grant to, to assist the CHAMP from the state, and that would be the Urban Act grant of 2.5. So the only state money that is a grant is 2.5 from an Urban Act grant, which is an economic development, gap financing application, and it goes from OPM to the governor's office, and that's how it's done. The CHAMP is a loan. We got to pay it off, all of it, to the state, all of it. The $8.6 or $8.7 million that we have on the historic tax credits, it's private money. It's private money from, we're not going to say who it comes from. I mean, a lot of people already know that 3/4 of it is coming from a very well-known entity in the state that likes to do community development. So we already have an agreement for $4.6 million from them. The balance is going to be a company like Amica Insurance, Chevron, Bank of America, GE Capital Corp, the big companies, insurance companies that come in. That's private money. That's private money coming into us. We get a loan, pay for it while it's being built, and then when it's built, the federal government comes in, the National Park Service says, yep, you restored that building to the National Historic Renovation Standards. It's going to be beautiful. And if we don't do it, we don't get the money. If we do it, then that money comes in, gets developed, and we make contracts for all of our masonry work, and that's what I do.
If I may, the only project I can think of that's similar is, I believe, the Three Rows project in North Grosvenor used historical tax credits. I don't know if people are familiar with that, the buildings they rehab right near the new library community center in North Grosvenor.
Delta, with regard to the remediations, CME is going to give you a quote on it?
No, CME is doing the bidding documents.
Doing the bidding documents.
They're our engineering consultant,
So,
and they have worked with Eagle Environmental, that we have worked with Putnam Foundry.
and when do you expect to receive anything in terms of a bid on this?
Well, we're going to put the bid documents out.
Right.
DECD has to check them,
Right.
like they did the previous documents. So it should go out within the next 2 weeks. And
Okay.
then we give them anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks. We'll have another mandatory site walk with any of the contractors and environmentalists. And that's usually a 3 to 4 week window.
I really would like to see that quotation.
We're there. I mean, we are almost
Before
there.
we do anything, I'd like to see that.
See what?
I'd like to see the bid on the remediation.
Okay, the one that went out or the bid documents that are going out?
Well, I want to see the bid, what it's actually going to be.
The results of what he's talking
Okay,
about.
of the past one, sure, absolutely.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just to recap, essentially right now, we're first in line with this lien or mortgage if something goes bad, correct?
Right.
Okay, and what we're being asked tonight is to give up that first spot in the line and become second in line.
Right.
Okay?
To
Right.
subordinate to have 2.2 in front of us.
Right. Okay, well, what happens if we say no?
He doesn't get the 2.2.
What's that?
He doesn't get the 2.2.
Right. He
His
doesn't get
his
that loan.
2.2 is,
That's a loan.
Predicated on that.
That's a
Exactly.
loan. He doesn't get the loan for the hydroelectric power plant.
they want to be first in line because that's a
Through
mortgage.
CPACE, which, the town had signed on to.
Right.
We've we have an approval from CPACE for $2.5 million, and we're ready to do the closing. We're trying to get the closing so I can start construction on the project. And I need to have insurance on the project, which we have, and we're ready to deal with, and I need to get the release of this. And once again, it's this interim security mortgage or commitment that you have right now on the brownfield, and we need to be able to start moving on it within the next 4 weeks. I mean, I need to start putting out, I have to order turbines and this sort of thing. So I have a very limited window to deal with it. When you approved the CPACE, and if you recall, I don't know, you were here, I don't know who else, you've been here, right? You've been the town councilman or selectman?
For a year.
Okay, you were here. When the presentation was made, it was set up, and you signed it on the basis that if you did do a CPACE with us, or with, and of course we wanted you to approve it, or with anybody, any business that wants to redo its lighting, whatever, they require to be in first position. That was a requirement right off the bat, and now they're exercising it, saying they want to be in first position.
Right, and now our security isn't, theirs is on an actual loan to you. Our security is solely on a pass-through. So it's not money we're extending to you, we're just the guarantors that you're going to do the job properly.
Right, and Delpha's in charge of
Making sure
it gets done that way, and I'm in charge for the ownership to make sure that it gets done that way as well, to protect their interests. You protect your interests.
Let me ask a legal question to our esteemed attorney. Legally, can the town get killed at this deal?
If there was no risk at all, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about it. Basically, the risk is if the project goes belly up, we have a much lower priority. If the building is really worth $3.5 million now, we're still protected. I don't know what the devil, look at the foreclosures that's gone on for years in North Carolina. An old mill that hasn't been completely rehabbed is not the sort of thing you can go out and foreclose a mortgage on and find a willing buyer. It's one of those things that's problematical. That's why we put the mortgage on, to protect the town. If this thing works well, you're risking, if they do everything they're supposed to do on the brownfields, we don't have any liability at all. We pay zero. But because I've seen the way the state sometimes will audit these programs and not always be completely reasonable in their audits, I wanted the town to have some kind of leverage with the owners of the mill. And that's what this thing is designed to do. This is really a business decision. Are you willing to risk a loss of priority? According to what we've been told tonight, there would still be sufficient juice in the property to cover us. I certainly am not an appraiser, not going to guarantee that to you. You would be taking a second position instead of a first, which is never as good. And in exchange, you may be allowing a project that would be very substantial in town to go forward. My job is to explain the risk to you and to say, this is your choice. Basically, in the alternative, I suppose, we put a mortgage on the property, we could have asked for a letter of credit. I think we talked about some of those things back when we were doing this stuff. There are other options. For example, the town of Thompson is doing a large sewer project that Marianopolis is going to benefit through USDA. In that project, the townspeople were concerned what happens if that didn't get completed properly, and the people at the Trinity Foundation ended up giving the town a performance bond that guaranteed them that the town would be made whole if there was a problem with that project. So what I'm not sure about is, it sounds to me like we've got 3 or 4 more mortgages coming up on this project.
That's my next question.
Are we going to be asked to step back for those as well?
Well, I think I heard that he said in 3 months he hopes to have it done, so
Yeah.
if it's done in 3 months, our lien will be removed
Yeah.
anyway.
The state's audit period is 10 years. You can't change the
Right.
use or do anything without the state's approval for 10 years, unless they get a waiver out of the state. So our liabilities on the thing, and the way the thing is written for, is for a 10-year window that the state can go back up at us on.
But am I not correct in saying is as he goes further into the project, hopefully, the project is worth more, so even if we were fifth in line, it wouldn't really make that much of a difference as it progresses, because there still would be enough, if it's gonna be 23 point whatever million, I would think we'd still be sufficiently covered through the point of.
Yeah, if the project gets completed, there's no question that we're gonna be fully protected. The risk the town has if something goes wrong in the middle of the
And
project.
if we don't do it, he's not gonna get his financing,
Right.
bottom line.
And isn't the hydroelectric worth of some value on its own, even if the project weren't completed? It seems to me that that's going to be,
It is, it's
Yeah.
worth, we received Z-Rex. We made an application to Connecticut Light and Power, we have Z-Rex, and that's over $330,000 a year. So there's a great cash flow coming in from that, which is essential to make the hydro project work as well. We were able to sell to the grid when we get it built, and we're able to sell it, as I said, to the tenants. And there is very large cash value associated with that. As I said, we intend to put this thing out to bid shortly and get it worked and completed within the next, I see it being done in 3 months.
Yeah.
So the work will be done. Then we get our audit for the release of the funds as it comes in, and hopefully we release the document.
Doug has a question for Bill.
Bill, we're going into executive session very shortly, to discuss another matter. Can we take this issue and bring it with us into executive session to discuss it and then come back out and have a vote or not?
You would have to add a second item to the executive session, which you have the power to do.
Mr. Mayor, does that sound like a
Yeah, that's
kosher thing?
logical. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to add this discussion item to executive session agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and second to add the Economic Community Development Redevelopment Agency discussion, CPACE, of the Cargo Fall Mill going to the executive session.
And if I could, just make sure that Bill was in executive session so we could discuss the issue.
If you vote in, you could ask for certain people. You want Bill in here? You want Tim in here?
Yeah.
Tim?
Excuse me?
No.
You want Tim?
Bill.
Just Bill?
Yeah.
How about Doug Cobb?
That's a nice guy.
yeah.
Your brother?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion made to go in executive session.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks
Will-
I'm my dad.
Will we want Delta in that executive session?
It's up to you, Mike.
That's that portion.
For that portion, I would like to add Delta.
Okay.
For that portion, yeah.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Are there any abstentions? Okay. Johnny? You know the drill. I know. Take them up.
Want public comment now?
Pardon me?
Public
Oh, yeah.
comment.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do public. Anybody in the public have a comment?
Public comment? Go ahead.
I'd just like to say I'm looking forward to see Delpha in a hard hat as she controls the site. I've been going on the website to look for some information, and I just noticed that it hasn't changed. It's still the same old
We're
website.
building the website. It doesn't take overnight. We have one person doing the website. She doesn't even get paid to do it. So it's piecemeal. Unless you would like to donate $10,000 or $12,000, we'd have it done in a month.
Well, did you hire virtual town hall? There was a
We
big
hired a
process.
firm to show us how to do a new website,
Mhm.
which is exactly what you and a lot of people want. But we have one person who put it on. And that's
We need
Denise.
to generate content. Someone can design a website all they want, but until we have the specific content to go in the way we want it to,
All right.
they'll suggest ways to do it. But we need to give them the content to go in there. which means we need a person to give them, a person who is a representative of the town, who's coordinating with other departments, to give them the content to go in there. Now, frankly, this being the case, I'd love it if for next year we could authorize some extra overtime or something to allow this to happen, rather than being fit in when it can. But yeah, but we need someone from the town to give them the actual information that appears on the website. Believe me, it's not the web designers who are coming up with the stuff that you see on the page. They're coming up with the stuff that you don't see on the page.
So essentially, the bottleneck is that you're not getting the information that you need in order to input into the building of the website. Is that correct?
I wouldn't put it that way.
That's not it? So
Just
Mr.
a
Mayor,
Do we have a
matter.
new website yet?
Pardon?
Do we have the new website? We do.
It's being formulated right now by Denise.
I do the best I can.
It's not fair to
But we do
her
have the new
to
website.
do it at home.
It's a prototype. She's working
But
on
it's
a
not
prototype.
really-
It's not
You can put
live.
it up and say it's under construction, but that's all it's going to say.
Right, yeah, we don't have a live site yet, but it's under construction.
Whoa, like this should be under construction. You have about 30 seconds
Denise
left.
already
Mr.
had
Mello.
Well, in my 30 seconds, I'd like to say thank you, but you really didn't answer my question.
It's being done.
All I know is that it was appropriated to do, and that was at the beginning of the year, or I mean in July, and here we are in January, and it's still not done. I'm still not sure what the problem is, and I'd be glad to assist. I have my competitor here, Mr. Pentek, as being the shining star of
He
the
is.
town of Putnam. Without it, I don't think this boat would float at all. That is the truth.
Okay,
So,
thank you. You're done. Mr. Vo, you want us to have a few words?
I just got a couple of questions
You're on
on
the
what
clock.
on what you did tonight. If you
I think
don't mind. I understand you're looking at bids on the high school. And my
We're
question
not.
is, since it's a monster project, a lot of money, a lot of things can go wrong, is there performance bonds attached to these?
Each and every one. Each and every one.
Okay, that answers that question.
Next.
It wasn't in his presentation, so that's why I asked. Second question, you talked about training today. Now, at the last selectmen meeting, the administrator spoke about having the town be, I guess, rated by a bonding company, double A, triple A, or whatever.
Needs assessment.
No, rated.
Bond rated.
Before we do permanent
Getting a
financing.
bond.
Well, he was talking about getting permanent bonds next July for these temporary bonds they got in December. He liked the rates he got in December. Whether they're good, bad, or different, I don't know. The question is, he said we need to go and get an actual bonding rating, or bond rating, however you say it, double A, triple A, whatever, the best you can get. So, in order to do that, you gotta have, I guess, a financial report that's, unquestionable. So, the training you're getting done and is that gonna be a product? You got the gist of what I'm talking about
The
now?
training is for in-house personnel.
I
I can't
understand
speak
that, the
about the
finished
other
product.
personnel. We're having some issues. I mentioned we've had 4 treasurers in the last 2 years. Very difficult to have a cohesive thing going. We're hoping to get there. And our current treasurer is out on family medical leave, which leaves a big void in that office there. So people who are not attuned to what she's doing are trying to do the job. So it's very, very difficult.
Follow up to that, this software, have they presented it in such a way
Today you did.
that the results would be something you can take to a bond rating company, and the
Yes,
bond rating company
yes.
to say, I have everything that I
Doug's
need?
nodding his head yes, so that's a yes.
Time will tell, huh?
Time is up, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have to go into executive session.
Motion that we recess.
Motion made to recess to executive session.
Including Bill, Doug,
Which one you got, Dick?
Or part, yep.
This one. That's up for
I'll second it.
We missed you.
About the presentation you made tonight and the